Roman Reigns and Jacob's storyline is continuing, but it's facing some fan criticism over one reason. We'll also see what's up with the Vision, Maxxine, and more, starting things off with the latest story developments for Roman versus Jacob. Most feuds and storylines right now on television go on for an extended amount of time, and it looks like Roman and Jacob's feud is no different, and is going down that same path. This was also made obvious by that post-match beatdown from Jacob to Roman at Backlash. That Backlash attack after the match was a clear indication immediately that this feud will be continuing after that event. And the May 11th edition of Raw did in fact keep that story going. The story of the night was that Roman Reigns was having an acknowledgement ceremony and how Jacob was going to take part in it. There was also multiple backstage segments with Roman Reigns throughout the night that were all pretty much saying the same thing, that if Jacob doesn't acknowledge him by the end of the night, Roman was going to get Jacob kicked out of the company. So that was the stakes that were established, and it was quite clear that Jacob was not going to bend the knee to Roman, so it was definitely leading to another collision. Jay tried stopping Jacob when he was making his way to the ring, but Jacob wasn't having any of it and took out Jay by gorilla position, and then Jimmy tried stopping Jacob at the entrance ramp, but also got taken out. This cleared the path for Jacob to put hands on Roman, and led to once again another brawl segment between Roman and Jacob. It was a brawl segment that Jacob definitely won and absolutely destroyed not only Roman Reigns, but also Jimmy and Jay in the process as well. This segment kept the narrative going that Jacob is not acknowledging Roman Reigns and he's still coming after him. Now from a physicality perspective, that segment was great. It gave you all the top moments you would want from a classic brawl. But there seems to be a growing group of fans voicing their opinions about the intense amount of repetition that we're seeing with this Roman versus Jacob story. This storyline just started on the Raw after WrestleMania in late April, but fans are already feeling some fatigue because all of Roman and Jacob's segments together so far have been nearly identical, with just slight remixes taking place each time. The majority of the recent segments between Roman and Jacob have been brawl segments that follow the same formula for the most part. Roman delivers some blows and hits, but ultimately Jacob dominates the brawls against Roman and stands tall at the end of almost all of those brawling segments. So the fact that it's been the same exact segment for weeks, just disguised with little remixes, is starting to get noticed by fans. It's pretty much the same segment every week. Roman and Jacob main event each episode of Raw with a brawl that ends with Jacob destroying Roman. Nothing really different mixed in there. This was something that was happening a bit in 2025 as well, where most of Roman's appearances in the later part of the year included him just making run-ins during the Raw main event segments to come after the Vision. And that usage for Roman eventually got a bit repetitive as well, since it was the same segment every week, where sometimes he'll stand tall over the Vision, and other times he'll stand tall over Roman. And it got to the point in 2025 where fans were wondering if Roman could be used in any other way besides a run-in on the Vision. And now it seems like we're quickly seeing that repetitive fatigue kick in for Roman and Jacob. We know they're in a feud with each other, but can we see something a little different besides the same main event brawl segment that plays out in the same way every time? Everyone loves Roman and Jacob as stars and performers, but if every single week is going to be the same exact brawl segment, more and more fans are going to start picking up on the repetitiveness after a while, and they'll become a bit tired of the same story week in and week out. So far, it feels like this current storyline between Roman and Jacob feels like a knockoff sequel to Roman and Jay's feud from 2020. Roman and Jay's 2020 feud followed a very similar narrative of Jay refusing to acknowledge Roman and fall in line, and contested him constantly and wanted to take that title from him. But that 2020 storyline was actually extremely deep in story and didn't feature the same exact segment playing out every week of that feud. It was a mixture of different things and story elements leading up to those two matches that Roman had against Jay in the Thunderdome. The build-up weeks were strong and weren't repetitive, and of course the matches themselves were cinematic and amazing. So it feels like that's what they're going for, that's what they're trying to recreate and recapture with Roman versus Jacob. But the story is just not landing as well as the original did between Roman and Jay in 2020. What could help get the Roman and Jacob story back on track is some more fresh storytelling and new segments between Roman and Jacob every week that don't consist of the same exact brawl scenario taking place again. If they can switch things up there with the build-up and not do the same segment every week, it would definitely help immensely, especially since you have your biggest star in Roman Reigns with you on the road full-time. You gotta make the most of him being around so much right now. Gotta make the most out of him being around and find some different and new things for him to do every week, and not just use him in the same exact segment for every single one of his appearances. Roman will be appearing on a lot of the upcoming editions of Raw. Roman is set to appear on all of the remaining Raws in May, Clash in Italy, as well as make appearances on the June 1st, June 15th, and June 29th editions of Raw. So the creative team has Roman Reigns fully available to them for a majority of the next month and a half. So it would be nice to see them use him to his full potential, instead of the same old brawl segments with Jacob every single week. It has yet to be fully confirmed at the time of this recording, but it seems clear that they're building up to another meeting between Roman and Jacob, and Clash in Italy seems like the ideal spot for that rematch. As for what big story event we could potentially see sometime soon, Roman has constantly been bragging about how he'll end Jacob's time in the company if Jacob doesn't acknowledge him. Well, now we see that Jacob is not acknowledging him and has doubled down on that stance. So now it's time for Roman to put his money where his mouth is. If he claims he has pull to get Jacob removed, it surely seems like Roman's character is going to have to go through with that plan, following once again another beatdown by Jacob on May 11th. That's the next thing to look forward to here. Roman has been saying that he can get rid of Jacob, so we're going to have to see him put that on display, or else Roman is going to look like he was bluffing the whole time. So it's time for Roman to prove that he has the pull he claims to have, and we'll see if he can even get Jacob temporarily suspended, or something minor like that. Hopefully a lot of exciting things are still to come there for Roman and Jacob's story. Speaking of Monday Night Raw, that brings us to another progressing story that's happening on that brand, and that's the entire Maxxine and Vision storyline. For over 2 months, we've seen an endless amount of backstage segments of Austin Theory and Maxxine speaking to each other, and everyone's main complaint there with that story teaser was that no real progression was happening in that story. We were just staring at Maxxine and Austin talking backstage for months, with nothing new ever happening or progressing there. Well, now finally that story has actually progressed, and has gone somewhere on the May 11th edition of Raw. Instead of just seeing them talking again backstage, the Maxxine and Vision teaser segment was refreshing and different this week. As Austin Theory was wrapping up his interview with Jackie Redmond, the camera sways just a little bit to show that Maxxine was sitting inside the Vision's truck and she was going to leave the arena with them. So finally some progression has happened off screen. Austin is no longer trying to convince Maxxine to join him. It looks like he has already successfully convinced her to hang out with the Vision, and she was right there ready to drive off with them. There's still no telling what's the end game for all of these teasers between Maxxine and the Vision. The only obvious end game is Maxxine joining the Vision as a member. She's already hanging out with them and driving around, so it seems like the bond is already there. But if they do go down that route, it obviously puts an end to Maxxine's run as a babyface. Hanging out with Logan Paul and Austin Theory is an instant heel turn, so if they do go fully down this route, you gotta assume that we'll be seeing a whole new heel version of Maxxine once her Vision membership is fully publicly confirmed. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.